Hello, this is Group 8 and talking about population crisis analysis. This is Anel Granados.
This is Bobby Garza.
This is Justin Heckman.
This is Alexandra Shepard.
And we'll start. So, what is it exactly? As the population is nearing 8 billion and is predicted to reach 11 billion by the end of the century, this is causing worry within the public in regards to economic, social, and environmental consequences. And this is affecting the world's health. Some governments, unlike United States, has programs to maintain their population. The physical causes are exponential increase in population due to the Industrial Revolution, advancement in medicine in the 19th century, like antibiotics and procedures, led to longer life expectancies, decline of mortality rate, and there are other cultural causes like immigration and lack of family planning. So the disparity of world population is that most of the developed world is at the point where the population is self-sustaining with no or slight increase. The decreased population, Italy and Japan, are in the 0 to 1 child, and the population is decreasing at an alarming rate. Increasing population, it's found in Africa, where portions of the Middle East and Pakistan are increasing at an alarming rate.
This is Alexandra Shepard. World population projections. Countries with high birth rates and increased longevity, including Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. These countries are facing a crisis with emphasis on instability in the environment pertaining specifically to food and water. And countries with low birth rates and increased longevity, like China, Russia, Brazil, Japan, and Europe, are having low birth rates and longer lifespans, which mean these countries are now facing opposing issues with the health and financial security of the elderly. Continuing on effects of overpopulation. Overpopulation has wide consequences seeping into many different areas of our world. Some of the major effects fall under economic and environmental. First off, a very predominant negative effect we've seen in our economy as our population continues to rise is that as the amount of people grows, job opportunity continues to decrease. Without jobs or a form of income, families are not able to attain basic necessities like proper nutrition, shelter, clothing, and basic educational opportunities are hindered. This direct relationship can surely lead to increasing crime rates and poverty, which would worsen further as the population grew. Some environmental effects include increased landfill area, increased pollution, increased temperatures, decreased animal and plant species, and overall less resources for the population. This further damages the economy and communities around it. The effects of overpopulation lead to a hopeless existence with seemingly no way out and little help from the government to combat these effects.
The effects of underpopulation. Underpopulation is when a region has a population too small to support its population standard of living, retired populations, and to realize the economic potential of the area, as mentioned in an article by Lancaster. It is important to recognize that population growth is a key determinant of economic growth. Underpopulation imperils economic prosperity. One effect of the underpopulation includes putting Social Security, healthcare, and the pension system in danger due to lack of young workers who contribute to the tax base. Another effect includes smaller defense groups like the military, leaving this region more vulnerable to attacks and invasions. Overpopulation is a crisis many countries are facing or are soon to face, but underpopulation can just as easily disrupt them as well. The pros of population control: social benefits for women towards gender equality, better work pay and career advancement, improved health outcomes due to better job opportunities, Children with no siblings have higher academic achievement, self-esteem, and confidence, leading to better health outcomes. Proponents for population control argue that enforcing one or two child households create better opportunities for women. Studies show an increase in social benefits for the female population in China, moving toward gender equality, with 52% of women accounting for undergraduates and 48% for postgraduates. The work environment, including pay and career advancement, has also greatly improved. With work advancement also comes better healthcare and benefits. Some cons of population control are potential mental health issues for childless couples, high portion of elderly population, which led to a single child being financially responsible for both parents, which is a tradition and duty, lowering quality for elderly care. An uneven sex ratio. In 2020, projections show 30 million excess non-marriageable males in China, leading to depression, aggression, and other mental issues. Mental issues lead to higher crime rate and social instability. Issues for only children include selfish, unsociable, and higher obesity rates. Slowed economic development, which comes with a lack of workers to maximize economic prosperity. Poor public health, less reproductive choices in family size and contraceptives without formal consent, forced abortion, and sterilizations. Using China as a model for one or two child policies, scholars are at odds about the positive and negative effects of these type of population control policies. There are numerous studies stating issues with mental health, age proportion, uneven sex ratios, socioeconomic development, and poor public health overall. Many scholars believe that economic development itself would have evened out the population rates in highly populated countries such as China and Thailand. Scholars advise that single people living alone or couples who have opted to not have children have a higher risk of potential mental health issues than couples with children. Not only does the mental health issue plague the childless couples, it can also have negative effects on the single child household as well, with issues of the only child becoming more selfish, unsociable, and having higher obesity rates. A study through the National Institute of Health stated that by this year, 2020, in China alone, there will be 30 million unmarriable men due to uneven sex ratio. Tradition is still high for marriage and children, so this is leading to depression, aggression, and other mental health issues in the unmarriable men. With mental health issues, we see a rise in crime rates and eventually in social stability and slowed economic development. Women also find themselves with less reproductive choices when population control is enforcing due to population crisis. Not only do they lose their say in the family size, they are also subjected to the state's choices in contraceptions, which sometimes include forced abortion and sterilization without the woman's formal consent. The elderly population also suffers with the population control, as it is tradition and a child's duty to care for their parents as they age. This becomes increasingly difficult financially when there is only one child to take care of both parents or two sets of parents if they marry. This increase is if the married couple decides to have a child of their own. They call it the 4-2-1 effect, meaning 4 parents, 2 adult children, and 1 child.
So the solution to all of these problems would be education. So governments need to educate and engage the public in contraceptives, family planning before the population crisis gets to an overwhelming stage. Currently, we're nearing the 8 billion mark of the number of people on the earth, and by 2050 we would reach 11 billion people. So most countries that are facing the overpopulation crisis, the ones in Africa and the Middle East, are the ones that really need to start educating their population so contraceptives and these problems don't persist in the future. Here in the Valley, there is studies for population, and there have been interesting findings that they found throughout the Valley. We have an increase in Hispanic population. In 1940, 61% of the entire population of Hidalgo County were 61% Hispanic. 1970, 76%. And in 2019, out of the 1.2 million people, it was 90%. In the last 2 decades, we've had an increase of population of 75% versus the 24% for the rest of the country, meaning that our population is growing at an exponential rate. But coming with a large population and large increases, we have the lowest per capita income and highest poverty levels in the country. And we have the highest diabetic and obesity rates in the country. And as studies show that they link with the population with these findings. So overall, we've mentioned the pros and cons of choosing to limit the population, but there is an overall greater debate whether liberty is better for the, whether we should have our own choice to have our family, or do we do what's for the greater good? And I feel like this is part of our critical analysis, and my group members may have different opinions of it. So guys, do you think we should risk overpopulation but keep our ability to choose our families and hold a stable economy, or contain overpopulation but lose the ability to choose our families and stable economies?
I feel like having a stable economy is more important.
Yeah, I feel like that's right now what politicians are going for, trying to keep our economy up. But eventually, we're going to run out of food. That's one of the main problems: food and just general healthcare and well-being of the people.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think overpopulation and just being able to choose the size of your family is what an economy that the entire population is going to have to share and burden the consequences of.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it will be difficult for United States to do that because we have the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. Besides religion and that, it's happiness. And I think United States is so liberal, and I don't think they will be willing to accept those rights and decisions over something personal.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an easy topic to discuss, especially with most Americans valuing their freedom over what would be considered a greater good of overpopulation. But with that, with overpopulation, we lose our ability to have distinct cultures, which is something we've been studying, like globalization. So, do you think we should have distinct cultures, or should overpopulation like blend all the cultures together? What do you think would be not necessarily better, but more correct in your opinion?
I feel like having distinct cultures would be something really admirable and like a really unique feature in America, which is kind of what we have today. But blending the cultures in is just like it's expected if the population is going to increase as much as it is.
I think that I personally feel like having distinct cultures is what makes sociology such an interesting study, because each person has a different way of viewing their own set of society, and having different types of societies and different types of morals is what differentiates us from other human beings.
I agree. I feel like having distinct cultures is better than blending them all through overpopulation.
What I think it's concerning as well is that, okay, so we have diversity on cultural people, but because of that and globalization and people from other cultures moving out to United States, I think that culturality is losing its identity because then it gets mixed with other cultures, and so there's not one definite like defined.
Agree.
So I think like we're losing the identity of some cultures because of that.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes our critical analysis, and these are our sources. So with that, that ends our presentation, and that ends our group project. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.